Here is the disclaimer one more time. This call is being recorded and we place our recordings on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. Uh, so first of all, thank you very much for joining. Happy Friday and welcome to another session of Azure Power Lunch. And today we are going to be doing a quick recap of our Ignite conference. So if you don't know, Ignite is Microsoft, one of the premier Microsoft conference. Um, Other one is Build. This is targeted towards the IT folks. And there always a lot of announcements. We share where we're heading with the innovations, what area or areas we are targeting. So we are going to try to summarize some of the announcements, and there were hundreds of announcements. Please, for the sake of time, I have picked a few, which, in my opinion, kind of seems interesting to me, and I hope you find them useful as well. And I also have the link to the book of news towards the end, so you can take a look at it, and it has all the announcements there and link to the resources and things like that. And please visit the Ignite site. There are sessions, and now I think they're providing the content of the session, not only the video but the slide decks as well, so you can take them and reuse them. So that's perfect. So here is a quick theme. As usual, the focus is on data automation, kind of helping the cloud developer, and security is always the key thing. So the announcement that you will see will be kind of that I'm covering will be in those categories as well. And just to note, I will be covering them at a high level. I mean, if we and some of those announcements will probably need their own session. So, kind of just want to give everybody a heads up that if you don't see me sharing a lot more detail, there are a lot of announcements, and just for the sake of time, and we will cover those, probably some of those in individual sessions. Okay. So first of all, app service, that's near and dear to my heart. One of the first PaaS service that Azure launched. And there are some one of a very exciting announcements. Number one, .NET 7. I'm sure if you are a .NET developer like me, you may have played with .NET 7. It's in the release candidate mode. It is going to be going GA next in the November 2022 in a .NET conference. And once again, please, I have the link here. If you're interested, please register for it, join it. They have very good announcements overall in where they are taking .NET to in the .NET conference. So that's the what that means is the day it becomes available, you can use it to deploy apps with .NET 7 in Azure App Service. So that's a big deal. So that's the day zero support means. So once it becomes available, which is as they have announced a .NET conference in November 2022, you can use it from the get-go. You don't have to wait for, okay, yeah, it's going to be available in a week or 10 days. It's going to be there. And then there are two key language support announcements. Go language is now available, and then there are some new versions of languages like Python, Node.js, and PHP. They're available, and they are available through with the app service early access feature. So that's a runtime, a special runtime that app service runs that allows you to quickly access these feature without where they can quickly update it to support these type of feature without compromising any features, pretty much. Please, when you are using these, take a look at that. This is mostly for kind of evaluation, and that's what early access means, to take, evaluate it, to test your applications out. and get ready for them once that support goes GA. And what happens is once that support goes GA, you may be using the early access runtime. It will be replaced by the GA runtime. Okay. So moving forward, there is support for larger SKU. Customer has asked for it. App Service Environment v3, which is the next generation app service environment, it now has gonna be it will be supporting these three new SKU: 16 core, 32 core, and it has the uh, 64 core. So all of these and the larger SKU will be supported. So you can, if you have application that you need to scale vertically, app service environment is the place to be for those type of app services. Moving forward, um, maintenance for the app server. Sorry, I just clicked on the wrong button. Plan maintenance for app service environment v3. So with the app service environment v3, now you will be able to schedule upcoming updates. So you will get a 15-day notice. And let's say that you have a something kind of event that is happening, or with your mission critical apps, and you don't want to have that maintenance window during that time, though it doesn't impact um, it should not impact any runtime, but still you want to avoid any change at that moment. You can, move that window to up to 2 weeks, I think. So that's what the planned maintenance means. And there are a bunch of important updates in regards to AKS, managed Kubernetes. First of all, pod identity. Now you can use Azure AD workload identity with pod identity. If you don't know about pod identity, managed pod identity, you can use it to access secrets. Um, you don't have to use service principal. You can use that to access secrets from Key Vault, connect to other services, all of that. Now you can use a workload identity as a managed pod identity. So that's this feature is all about. Probably a we may be doing a session on some of the AKS stuff, or maybe multiple ones. As you can see, there are some very key updates. Um, I'm gonna go to the CNI mode overlay. This is a new networking mode in AKS. You have KubeNet, you have CNI. This is the third one, CNI mode overlay, which is kind of a best of both worlds. If you remember, with CNI, IP address comes from the virtual network. The challenge becomes is that now you have to kind of a pre-configure your VNet if you're deploying AKS to make sure you don't run out of IP addresses. With KubeNet, that is problem is not there, but then you have to have route tables and all that stuff. This is a best of both worlds. The reason is the IP address come from the overlay VNet, okay, overlay network space. So you don't have to worry about pre-assigning any IP addresses or making a large enough VNet to if you are hosting a lot of pods and nodes and all that. On the other hand, you don't have to deal with route tables and all that stuff. So your it's much more simpler to set up. And once again, we will take um, you know a deep dive probably in a future session, or some definitely in a future session. And there is this Kubernetes apps. So these are Kubernetes solution developed by our ISVs that will be available in the marketplace for you to use. If you are an ISV and you have a Kubernetes solution, you can deploy it you can make it available in the Azure marketplace for other people to use. Okay, so that's this preview is all about. Okay. Moving forward. By the way, any questions? Okay, Fleet Manager. So this is a very exciting service. Um, and what it is right now you may have clusters which have node pools running application on it, but most organizations have multiple applications. Some applications are so large that they have their own multiple clusters, or many clusters. So how you manage those clusters, okay, and how you kind of decide how you're going to route traffic and things like that. That's where this fleet manager comes into picture. Basically, it simplify multi-cluster management. Okay, allow you to centrally manage, these cluster at scale. That's and as you can see where it is heading in the future, the last bullet, you will not only be able to manage your AKS cluster, but also Kubernetes cluster that you are running in your Arc-enabled uh, Kubernetes cluster, which you may be running on-prem or in some other cloud. So basically, this is a kind of spanning across the clouds or across on-prem and the cloud in the future. So very interesting announcement, probably worth taking a deeper look into it um, in a later session. And once again, maintenance window, and that's if you have heard the previous announcement, same in this kind of same spirit. Enterprise customer, they want uh, less disruptions or any chance of disruption is bad for them because they have mission critical application running. So now you have the maintenance window where you can get an advance notice up to for an update, and then you can set a granular window for the update up to 2 weeks. Just to make sure that your mission critical applications are not impacted. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's continue on. And I'm gonna start about this Azure networking update. There are a number of networking updates in from Ignite. Uh, um, we have talked about DNS private resolver in the past. This is a very exciting service which allows you to query on-prem DNS from your Azure environment, or from your Azure environment, you can query private DNS zones. And remember, this is not for the public DNS zone. This is for private DNS resolution. You know, and this service we have talked about it in our, uh, I think one of the power lunch session. This has gone GA now, so you can your customers who may be not just kind of testing the water, you or your customers, they can start using this service. So this um, is GA. Then we have a new SKU with Azure Firewall. So Azure Firewall is one of the um, native Azure Firewall service. You don't need an appliance to install or anything. This service is a kind of a built-in uh, part of Azure, and it has two SKUs: Premium and Standard. And with that service, some of the customer were still a smaller customer were still on the sideline because they had, for kind of for them, uh, cost was a challenge. This queue is to bring those customers in, especially small and medium businesses who may be on the sideline, on the fence for um, the cost reason, um, and with the basic cost coming in line, I mean, it's has some of the features that definitely are needed by those customer, but lesser price, so they can take a look at this queue and secure their environment, uh, and get the benefit of a firewall at a lesser cost. So this is basically Azure Firewall Basic. It's currently in public preview. Probably we will take a deeper look at this one at a future session. Then we have the very interesting service, Azure Express Route Traffic Collector. Basically, what it does is it does the sampling flow logs for a Azure Express Route direct circuit, both for private and Microsoft peering. And it sends that information to log analytics, and it kind of open to door to some very interesting scenario. You can find out traffic based on IP, based on application, how what you can kind of predict network congestion and usage, and at the same time you can determine who are the top talkers, so how your network is used, who is and like maybe is it taken over by one application and they are saturating the entire bandwidth. These are some of the things that you can determine based on um, express route flow logs. And this is basically, I'm just touching the surface. I'm sure once we look at that service, there are a lot more information and things that you can do with that. So that's basically express route traffic collector. Okay. And now we come to um, MySQL database. So as you know, the flexible server is the direction where open source databases are headed. This is a great mix of flexibility and PaaS. So you don't have to sacrifice one or the other. Allows you to build databases by where you define your vCPU and RAM and things like that, and gives the power of PaaS platform and a flexibility of infrastructure as a service. So, a um, great way to have these PaaS databases available. And there are some key enhancements. First of all is auto scale IOPS, and which is, I mean, auto scaling is the promise of the cloud, where you scale up when you have the demand, when you don't have the demand, you scale down. And that's what it does, exactly the name suggests. You don't have to provision higher IOPS because you may expect a load during the day where you're going to be using those IOPS and you don't use the rest of the day, but you have to pay for it because you have provisioned. Now you only pay for the IOPS you use, it will scale up and scale down. So this is, I think, kind of one of the key feature here in for flexible server that has been announced in public preview. Second one, by absolutely in terms of security, Azure AD authentication. I know some of my customers asked for it in the past because they want to manage all their identities in one place, which is Azure AD. They don't want to have like this multiple identity crisis where you have some identities in Azure AD and then you have created some identities in the database. Now you have identities in one place and you can use them, give them access to the database, which makes things much easier and much secure. So that's that. And with encryption, with customer managed key, yeah, nothing um, that pretty self-explanatory. You bring your own key, put them in key vault, use those key to encrypt your data in the flexible server database, and if those keys goes away, the of anyways, if some hacker somehow gets that data, it's nothing but jumbled bytes because the keys are stored in uh, key vault. They are not Microsoft key; they are customer managed keys. Okay. And for some reason, I'm not sure why it is hiding the part of the slide. Let me just give me 1 second. Let me just reshare. Rebounce it one more time. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, so basically, then we have the MySQL extension for Azure Data Studio. So this is, if you don't know, Azure Data Studio is a cross-platform data management UI, and it's cross database as well. You can manage different databases. Now MySQL extension is available, so you can manage and update MySQL databases as well. That's that. Any questions, folks? Okay. So then we have the Azure Container Apps. So I think this is not a feature, this is a gap that we have uh, filled. I mean, every service in Azure is integrated with Azure Monitor when you want to do monitoring. This service was not. And now we have integrated with Azure Monitor. You can send the log to Azure Monitor. You can do all that um, kind of a things that you do with any other service that is available as a part of container apps. So this is basically filling a gap, in my opinion. Then we have Microsoft Azure deployment environments. That's in public preview. So this is on the same direction where you have the flexibility of the cloud. Let's use it to help our development teams. And how we can do it, we can help them create these environment, like a sandbox environment, CI/CD environment, development environment, or environment for testing. Quickly, they can deploy it using deployment environments where you have these templates and you can use them. This is kind of a think of it. I'm sure you heard about DevBox. This is taking the DevBox to the next level. So DevBox is for developers to use those machines. This is kind of you wanna have the environment where you wanna test uh, kind of a lot of test application, but you want to make sure it is consistent. So you are not kind of deploying it or kind of missing some configuration. So that allows you to quickly provision those environments um, through Azure deployment environment, taking advantage of infrastructure as code templates and things like that. So probably we will take a deeper look to know more what is hidden under the surface at, at a future session. And then simply static web apps now have support for Next.js. Next.js is apps that, I mean, you use it for SEO, search engine optimized based application. So now that support is there for certain key feature of Next.js, where you have server-side rendering, API routes, and things like that. So that is now available. Okay. Um, and one of the two key announcements, number one, now you can have your cake and eat it too when it comes to scale set. So we had spot VMs and we had pay as you go VMs. Customer want to use both VMs in the same scale set. It wasn't possible. Now with this update, you can do it with the Flex VM scale set. So you can have them both in the same scale set. And what that will do is, let's say that you are running your workload and you don't have to juggle them with like, okay, I have to have two scale set, one VM scale set with pay as you go, one with spot, and if that spot VM is not available, then I will scale up my pay-as-you-go VM. No need. You can set up policy. What is the percentage of each type of VM? You can actually even set the number of pay-as-you-go VM, how much minimum you want to have, and you can have your scale set, which is mixed, and you can have different SKU as well. So you can have some SKUs larger, some smaller, so it doesn't have to be the same VM SKU in the scale set. So that's um, this is available as a part of VMSS Flex. And I think this is part of the classic VMSS as well now, the multiple SKUs. But so now we have the Elastic SAN. So this is one of its kind feature. This is, I think they're targeting a lift and shift. So you have applications that are running on-prem that are using on-prem storage area networks. Okay, now you are migrating the entire application to the cloud, and it's a lift and shift. How you do it without changing a lot of things. You can now have Elastic SAN in Azure. Okay, this is a kind of a one of its kind solution. No other cloud provider so far has it, where you bring this entire thing, you kind of create this entire thing in the cloud. So it's a cloud native Elastic SAN, and probably deeper look at a future session. But that's exactly what it means. You have now that SAN service in the cloud, and just keep in mind, it's not it's different from the managed disk. In managed disk, you get a disk. In this one, you basically have a managed Elastic SAN in Azure, and which, just like your VMs connect to the SAN on-prem, they will be connecting to it in Azure. So with that, so that's all. I have two links here. One is the first one, Ignite Book of News. This is the one where you have a summary of all the announcements. All the announcements are there, and you can take a look at them. And the good thing is there is not only the detail of the announcement, but link to the actual Microsoft Learn, which used to be Microsoft Docs, that page, and also the any announcement page, so you can see the entire detail, what it's about, and there all the announcements are listed there, so you can take a look at it. And there are hundreds of them, so that's why it's hard to cover all of them in one session. So with that, 1 minute, any questions?
This was awesome. Could you tell me where the recorded sessions are?
Yeah, so recorded sessions are gonna be in our, YouTube channel. So if you just search for azurepowerlunch.com, we have the website, and it has a link to our YouTube channel and all that. So you should be able to get it from there.
All right, thank you.
Larry, one question here. Can you have more about the information about Azure DNS private resolve?
Yeah, it's GA now.
Yeah. Can you send some link to us, because we want to learn about more about this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely. Basically, if you go into this, sorry, instead of going forward, I was going backward. If you go into the announcement, there is a link, but I will add a link to it in the resources anyways. Okay, yeah. So once you're down, and just keep in mind, in the description of every session in YouTube, there's a link to a PDF of the slides. So and there are resources and all. So
okay, thank you.
Any other questions, folks? Thank you very much, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. And hope to see everybody next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. So I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.